Hey, 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 welcome everybody. Gonna let a couple people more join. And then I'll catch up with you here. I'm just sending out a push to some of our app areas, and I wanted to kind of get an update with you guys, right? So as you guys join, I'm gonna get right over here. I'm sending this out right now. All right, let's do this deal. Let's do this deal. All righty. Now, I'm going to walk over there, check in with you guys here. So, welcome. First of all, I always like to do a double check to make sure you guys can hear me, so that's going to be the first thing that I do. Generally, I think you probably can, but I double check here because otherwise, all right, you guys can hear me. So, number one thing right now, as I pop out to you right now, it's hot outside. That's the number one thing that we'll talk about in the short term. Extreme heat. We've just reached 100 degrees for the first time all season. This is above average. Typically, we reach that about the third week of June. I think it's July 18th or so. So we're ahead of schedule when it comes to that. We've been knocking on the door for a while. That trend continues, right? So, and as I often do, and I'm showing you here, I'll look at your comments here on the Facebook stream. I won't be able to see the YouTube ones. It's just easier for me to pull up. So if you're watching on Facebook, I'm going to go through all this, and I'm going to kind of update you on what I think is going to happen later on today and give you a better timeline, because I think at some point this heat's going to break today in form of some stronger storms and maybe even some flooding localized. It's not out of the question. So as we have a handful of counties right now on a severe thunderstorm watch, that's what I want to pull you up to. So first and foremost, many spots up to 100. I'm going to go through this whole little spiel I got to kind of update you, and then we'll kind of answer your questions. The number one thing is it's extremely hot. Our heat index right now is well over 105. In fact, some spots maybe it feels like 110. It's significant. That's why we have a heat advisory, right? When you got these numbers like this, when it feels like it's between 105 and 110, there's extreme humidity. We talk about our dew points so often, and I'll pull those numbers up as well. You know, our dew points right now, they're pretty significant. Anytime they're over 70 for us, it's pretty significant. It's at 69 in St. Louis, but some of the localized areas, low to mid 70s, and that's when you have extreme heat plus that's where you really start to feel that. What I do want to point out is the fact that we have this line of storms and all part of this cold front that's going to settle in. As I put this into a full screen, I'm going to do some kind of deep diving about what we can expect. First and foremost, you see this line of storms. It hangs to the north, and most of it starts to settle into central Illinois. And this is what you're looking at right now. But kind of notice here over the last 30 minutes or so, some of this has started to fall apart. And that's, I think, the general trend. Some of them are staying to the north, closer to this boundary, and I'll kind of show you why here in a second, or at least why I think that is. You've noticed from Litchfield to Ramsey, where we've probably started to see kind of a cooling trend along this line. This line right here is this outflow wind that typically right about here that typically will knock the humidity down. But these little boundaries typically are a little responsible for storms that kind of pop up throughout the rest of the day and the rest of the night. Notice where all the other storms are. They're staying north of us, and we don't really have much going on right now. But as I kind of look at a different version of our visible satellite and infrared, what I want to point out here is what we're going to be looking at later on today. And you'll notice where this line of storms has continued to push further to the south, strengthening. You can still see some of those high cloud tops in the form of those red colors here, but look on the backside of it, not holding together. This is all part of this boundary, but as those thunderstorms exploded to the north, they have continued to kind of push away from us, at least at the moment. Our heat dome kind of remains in control of it now. We have hot air way above the surface. At some point, as this cold front settles south, that will break that down. That gives us our best opportunity for some stronger storms. And that's why we have a slight risk for severe weather as I put this back into motion. Once again, and I'll show you specifically the areas that are under this slight risk for severe weather. Keep in mind, despite the name, we don't name them. Slight risk for severe weather is category 2 of 5 from the Storm Prediction Center, and it pretty much encompasses our entire area, right? In terms of our viewing area, it's pretty much everywhere is under a slight risk for severe weather. In fact, this is a really big one. And one of the reasons it's so big is just because of where this front is. And if I show you a temperature map, you can kind of see where this is. That's what I'm going to do right now, because you can really see where not only where the temperatures are kind of settled into that, but let me pull out the big, let me pull a Paul Cook version, but a big map. I'm going to figure out where this, I'm going to figure out where this temperature map is. So you can see where it is cooler to the north, in the 90s, nothing too significant. But as I kind of just drag this, watch where that front is right here. You can see where the wind shift line is. It's nothing significant here, but it's north of Des Moines. That's where this front is. That's eventually going to settle to the south, give us a break from the heat, but it's 100 in St. Louis for the first time all year long. So we haven't seen 100 in a while. That's where this front is. You can also see this line of storms that has kind of developed in central Wisconsin and fell to the south once it was in more of a line of storms as it pushed south. So there's a 30-degree temperature difference from Springfield all the way to St. Louis. You've made that drive. I have. It's not a long drive, a couple hours maximum, and you know, it's a pretty significant difference here to drive north to see that. That's all rain-cooled air, but that's the front that's going to settle in and give us an opportunity. So as we put this into, as I want to put a couple of things here, I want to show you what we're kind of deal with. Right now, first and foremost, there are a small handful of counties, if you've watched us at all at noon, that are under that severe thunderstorm watch until 7 o'clock. There's 4 or 5 of them here. And the ones that are most specific are Fayette, Greene, Macoupin, Montgomery, and also Clay County. So those are really the 5 that are in our viewing area. The rest of the area is not. I would not expect them to hold on to that too much longer, but we'll see how these things go. I think the other area is going to be where you see storms off to the northeast. These storms are trying to break that kind of warm air cap that we have above us. And, you know, it's these storms here, they're trying to fire up. And at some point, they'll do it, right? And that's where I think we're going to look at now. Right now, they'll leave these little boundaries, I think, as they fizzle out. But they'll kind of help things settle down in terms of that. So other than the next few hours, let's get you through this evening. Other than a few random storms, you'll notice even east of Effingham, there are a few storms that hang around, but I think for the most part, we avoid anything too significant. You'll notice that even by 6:30, 7 o'clock, maybe Litchfield, maybe Effingham, that's where we could see a few storms that develop. So I'll pause it there. I think a few random storms are possible, but as far as severe level storms, you may have an opportunity here, but that's not the main threat of storms that kind of falls in. And so that's where I think we're going to see things kind of move through. However, as we go throughout the years past, what we're going to see, or the next several hours past that, that's where I think we're going to watch to the north. And once again, let's get to 5 o'clock, and I want to show you where these storms are developing to the north. This line is what we're going to watch for as we go throughout the next couple of hours. This line is to the north here. We're going to watch it right along that front, right along this boundary. We're going to watch this line start to push to the south. And let me put this into motion here, because as we start to see that line push into the south, you'll notice here, as I'll do a couple of zoom in, I just want to point that out for you. Watch how this line starts to kind of form and kind of bow out. That's where we may see a wind threat. And I think sometime this evening, north of us, that's at some point where we're going to see some sort of watch, maybe a severe thunderstorm watch until 12, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., whatever it may be. But that cold front is more certain for us, and it comes to when it comes to heavier rain. And even as I put this into motion and go to the south, watch how we kind of go here, and we've got more spots in Bowling Green, Troy, Litchfield, that more widespread areas of rain. I think after midnight, 1 o'clock, we're going to see some sort of cutoff where maybe 1 or 2 o'clock where there's no more severe weather chance, and it turns into more of a, believe it or not, localized flooding threat. And I think this is out of here by 5 or 6 in the morning. But look at some of the model output rainfall totals that this is kind of putting down, because I think that, why don't you get hung up on specifics so hard? I think what's important to note is, you know, look at all these spots that go from a ½ an inch, and I think a lot of us are going to get a ½ an inch or more, but there are some spots where it may rain over the same location. These storms are not moving fast. There's a lot of moisture from the surface all the way above the surface, that they're going to be some efficient rain producers where you may see 2+ inches of rain per hour. So I don't want you to look at this in Carlisle and say, oh my God, we're getting 5 inches of rain, or Litchfield or Wentzville or, Herman not getting as much rain. I think the potential is there. So that's the number one thing I want to point out. So the two things from our severe weather impacts, before I try to answer some of your questions, if you have any, are I think we might see a few areas of high winds between 40 to 60 miles an hour, maybe quarter-sized hail. I think that's the extent of this. But this is a flash flooding, localized flash flooding threat, and maybe a wind threat. Those are the two things that I'm really looking for right now when it comes to that potential. So as we continue to look at things right now, this is where we're going to start to see things, I think, as early as probably 8, 9, 10 o'clock, maybe, if that one of those boundaries holds together. Here's what's going on right now. I'm going to look at some of these comments here to see if anybody has questions right now. Okay, so I'm going to put this back on now and see if I can answer any of your questions here. What about Farmington and Fredericktown? I think you're going to see, right now to me, it looks like your severe weather threat may be on the more low-end side here just because of the time that this gets here at 4 a.m. in Fredericktown, Farmington, I think, but you can still expect the potential for some heavy rain here. St. Charles County, Lincoln County, I think as Don mentioned, this is mid-July weather here. So when you're talking about the significance there, Moscow Mills, I think right now everybody has the same threat for severe weather, whether or not it's a wind. The wind threat is my primary threat that I'm looking at, between 40 to 60 mile an hour wind. And so that's going to be something that we look at here as the night wears along. Where does this line set up? And I kind of zoomed out earlier, but I'll pull out once again. When does this line start to develop and kind of settle in? Because you'll see this it's this part that's going to be our main severe weather threat by 9 o'clock. 9, 10 o'clock, we'll start to notice this, and at some point the Storm Prediction Center will probably have a blanket area across I-70 for some sort of severe thunderstorm watch. And how many of our counties that are involved in that at that point remains to be seen. This could be one of those situations that's going to arrive overnight. And so that's going to be something I want to look at here for some of us here. So watch this by 9 or 10 o'clock. I think that we're starting to get a pretty good handle on how this may impact you here, because as we get through midnight, and I can move this banner here in a second, but I think this is a better chance for widespread heavier rain. And the other thing is, look at this by midnight. Because of the slow movement in nature, some of these storms are kind of moving along this front from more of a, let's call it west to east flow, very slowly. And as it does so, that rain's going over the same location multiple times. That's why I think we get this saturating rain, which is good news for a lot of us, but it's going to be something that we have to deal with in the morning. Clear in the morning by 8 o'clock, but I think we're probably done with our severe weather threat window is probably between 10 and maybe about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So let's call it 10 till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. But those are the main threats. I think everybody pretty much has the same chance at this point. But if I'm betting right now, and I'll move this banner for you so that you can see it a little bit better as I zoom in just a little bit more. I think at this point, I'm not as concerned about severe weather to the south, just because I think things are going to weaken. We'll see. Sometimes these things hold together pretty well. It's obviously hot and humid, but if cold air pushes out ahead of this, it typically weakens it. And just because it's coming in at 4 or 5 in the morning, you'll watch how this line is and watch how this moves through. Pretty much everywhere from Litchfield all the way to Columbia and Kansas City is in that same sort of threat. And that's the reason we have that big slight risk for severe weather. So just looking at some of these, we have Sue. Sue asked about Moscow Mills. I think same type of thing. Moscow Mills, St. Francis County. These are all spots that I think, but watch how we get closer to 4, 5, 6 o'clock. The colors start to wind down into more of a yellow and orange, and I think that's where we turn into that localized flash flooding threat, which is in some ways more significant. And the fact that we have been so dry, it's not really something we're thinking about. I don't know that it's going to happen exactly this way, but I think that it's going to be kind of a sneaky threat just because of the amount of rain and just the amount of moisture that is around for us. I think that's going to be something that we kind of have to deal with. So it is going to rain tonight, though. Somebody just asked. This is our best bet for widespread rain for a while, and so we're going to get some pretty good rain. There will be some higher totals here and there, but keep in mind, Cassidy asked, is this for tomorrow or today? This is for tonight through early tomorrow morning. So By tomorrow, 8 or 9 o'clock, the rain's pretty much out of here. And we either are going to be dealing with some minor damage from trees being down or limbs being down, probably limbs being down just because it's so dry, but also maybe some localized flooding. This is going to fill some ponds up pretty quickly, I think. So just because of the rapid amount of rain that we're going to get. So anyway, that's the main threat for us right now. In terms of rain, if you're talking about severe weather, this may be 11 all the way through 1 or 2 o'clock. We'll see how that holds. I think things start to wind down here. But as we talk about what's happening, significant rain, and we'll keep you posted here. Right now, the only spots that are under the watch is it through 7 o'clock. It's Macoupin, it's Montgomery, and it's Clay, it's Fayette, it's Greene County. These are on the Illinois side. This is for these storms, which are out of our area right now, but doesn't mean they won't impact you. But I think you're kind of on the tail edge of where this is going to be as those storms start to fizzle out. So we'll keep you posted on any updates on here. I'm checking in with you again here in about an hour, part of the NBC News Now program that's on. And then, of course, we'll see you at 4, 5, 6, and 10. So we'll have updates on this right now. This is not a big, severe threat, but it is something that is definitely going to break the heat and be impactful for us in the overnight hours. So we'll keep you posted as we go from, we'll see how high we go this afternoon, and then finally get a little bit of a break from some of this rain as well. And once again, I'll put this on the full screen so you can see as I walk over and end this live stream. But right now, that's where most of this rain is. It's north of us. It's not impacting us. And we'll continue to keep you posted on any changes here as we head throughout the next several hours with any updates.